Hello and welcome to the Charlian Forum. My name is Chris, and today I wanted to do a quick video going over what we know so far about how one of the two new jobs in Dawntrail, the Viper, might work and how its combos might fit together. Keep in mind that this information is all based on nothing but the live letter and the gameplay sections that they've shown there and the job action trailer, but by analyzing that and finding some information online that people have collected and organized, we can get a pretty good idea of how these jobs might function. So before I get started, I just want to go over some terminology here. For Viper, it can be a little bit confusing because you've got dual swords and then a twin sword, and it's a little bit confusing. So when I say dual wield, what I mean is the separated swords when you have one sword in each hand. And when I say twin blade, what I mean is when the two swords are combined into the singular weapon. So just keep this in mind going forward as I explain. Before I get started on the actual actions, I wanted to go over the overall idea of Viper and what it seems to be. And to me, just looking at this, it seems to be a pretty free-flowing job with multiple combo options that all work to maintain 3 buffs and also buff other actions in the ability trees that will sort of feed into each other. It's sort of similar to Reaper in a few ways, but it's also dramatically different in others. Despite the early idea seeming to be that your dual wield skills will be very fast, while your twin blade skills are slower and deal more damage, it doesn't seem like that's actually the case, where the twin blade attacks occur a lot less frequently, but they have charges, and the main combos seem like they're sort of designed more as a filler and to keep your buffs up when you're waiting for those charges to come back around. So with that out of the way, let's jump into what we might expect from the combos. So for the dual wield combos, we kind of have two splitting paths. We have a left fang skill set and a right fang skill set. I'm going to go over the right fang skill set first because I think that this is going to be the skill set that you open with in most fights. And the reason for that is that the first GCD in the right fang skill set gives you a damaged up to the opponent by the Viper. So this is sort of similar to Death's design on Reaper, only instead of being a singular button that's separate that everyone hates, it's built right into the combo. So this is the correct way to do this. The second GCD in the right fang combo gives you a personal haste. It's hard to tell exactly how much this haste is for. People are estimating that it's about a minus 0.3 to the GCD. We don't know if that scales or not, of course. It's sort of similar to Samurai's buff that they get in their combos, so expect something along that line. Now, the third GCD in the right fang combo is split. You have two options here. So each of these will buff another skill in the combo tree that's, again, it's sort of similar to Reaper's like Gibbet and Gallows, where you're going to be flipping back and forth. But instead of there being 2 skills here, like Gibbet and Gallows, there are 4 skills. So you'll be flipping back and forth between these 4 finishers throughout your combos very rapidly, and it's going to create a lot of really interesting flowing gameplay for Viper that I think will be really fun. And to cap it off, it looks like there's an OGCD that follows these abilities, and that's sort of your combo finisher, quote unquote. So then the left fang skills, you'll see we have a single opener skill. We have a second GCD, and that buff that it gives is a damage up to the Viper personally. And then you've got 2 finishers that again give a buff for other skills. So I'll put all 4 of them here so you can see which ones sort of feed into each other. It's interesting because sometimes a left fang skill will buff the other left fang skill, and sometimes it'll buff a right fang skill. So what that means is that you're going to be flipping back and forth between these 4 combo finishers and the 2 different left and right fang combos pretty much freely. As long as you're maintaining those buffs, you're going to be flipping back and forth just based on whatever buff skill that you have coming up next. Again, sort of similar to Gibbet and Gallows, but a lot more free-flowing and a lot more interesting as well. It's worth noting also that that last GCD, whichever one you do, will give you 10 of your gauge, which is something that we can talk about in just a moment. Now for the twin blade combo, like I mentioned before, the original idea seemed to be that the twin blade would be slower and almost like a stance, but it seems like that's not the case. You're going to be flowing in and out of twin blade pretty rapidly. It's not something that's going to be segregated to a window, similar to like, again, Reaper's Enshroud. It's not going to be quite like that, which is what a lot of people were expecting. So I'm glad to see that they're not falling into that trap quite yet. So to start us off, we have our first GCD of the Twinblade combo, which holds 2 charges and seems like it's a 40-second cooldown, and that will give you the damage buff that the first combo of the Right Fang skill gives. So this is another way to initiate combat. From here, you have 2 second GCD options. These will give you either the haste buff or the personal damage up buff, and then it's going to buff an OGCD. So what you'll do is execute your second GCD and then execute both OGCDs. So this job might actually require double weaving to be optimal, which is interesting. And then your third GCD will be the opposite of whichever one you chose for the second GCD, which means you'll double weave the OGCDs in the reversed order, which sounds confusing. Let's say you do 1, 2, 4, 5, and then 3, and then you'll hit 5, 4. The flip side of that would be 1, 3, 5, 4, 2, 4, 5. So again, that sounds confusing, but it makes sense when you're looking at it visually, I promise. It's worth noting that the first attack in that combo where you combine the blades and attack will give you 1 diamond on your job gauge, and the subsequent GCDs will give you 5 of your gauge. So let's talk about the gauge now before we go much further. If you're like me, you saw this job gauge and your brain immediately melted. It seems really complicated looking at it because different sections of the blades will light up in different sides and there's a lot of moving parts, but it seems pretty simple breaking it down like this. Your dual wield finishers will give you 10 of your reawakening gauge, this juice jug that holds the blue and red juice, and your twin blade attacks will all give you 5. Obviously it caps at 100. You need 50 to enter your reawaken, and that will drain 50 and activate the 5 blue orbs at the bottom. Again, not unlike Reaper going into Enshroud. Now the sword gauge will basically serve as your basic combo indicator. So you've got blades on either side and the diamonds at the bottom. When you have no charges, no anything, it's just going to be blank. When you start to use your left and right fang abilities, different sections of these swords will light up, and different sections will basically tell you which skill to use next. So it's sort of a visual indicator of the outlines on your hotbar more than anything, and it's a way for you to play without having to look too closely at your bar if you understand where your buttons are and understand what the glows and different parts of the glow mean. Now the red gems are either generated by another skill that I'll get into in a moment here, or your twin blade opener. You'll be using those on this ranged GCD that seems to be very powerful. It's a very buffed GCD, which is immediately followed by 2 OGCDs. And we see this, that's the very first thing we see in the job action trailer, is this buffed ranged spending ability tree. And that does consume 1 of those red diamonds. So that basically means that you can do 1 of these every 40 seconds or every charge that you use your twin blade. Now, for the big thing, the Reawakening Window. It seems like, again, 50 gauge, or we have a skill like many others that will give us an instant free use of this. And what this is going to do is as soon as we activate it, it's going to give us 5 charges on our bar. Now again, not unlike Reaper entering Enshroud. It's sort of almost like a Gunbreaker combo where we're going to have a GCD followed immediately by an OGCD, and we'll follow that path for 4 GCDs. So this is going to be 8 skills back to back to back. And then there will be 1 large GCD finisher that brings us out of our reawakened stance, not unlike, again, Enshroud ending when you cast Communio. Now it's worth noting that this gives you a massive speed buff. People that were analyzing the live letter said that it's about a 1.66 second GCD. So we're zipping in this phase. We're going to be doing damage very, very quickly. Those button presses are going to be flying out of there. And I bet that this is going to be super fun to hit in the middle of a fight. So buffs, going over those. Again, we have a 10% damage taken that applies to the enemy, and this stacks to 40 seconds. Again, it's very similar to Death's Design, but better because it's applied by just the opener of your combos. So there's no separate GCD you need to press for this. We have a haste buff, which is apparently a minus 0.3 seconds to GCDs that lasts for 40 seconds, and that's applied by the second step of either the right fang combo or your twin blade combo. And then we have a plus 10 damage buff, personal damage buff, which again 40 seconds, and that's applied by either the second step of your left fang combo or the alternate Twinblade combo, second step. For dual wield buffs, we have these 4 buffs that will give you buff damage for another skill that lasts for 30 seconds. So you apply these and you flip to the other skill to cast that skill the next time you go through the combo. And then we have Reawaken buffs. So we have an ability that will essentially give us a free charge of Reawakening. This is something that they're doing with a lot of the jobs in Dawntrail, where instead of giving us a resource for hitting a button, it's instead going to let us execute our gimmick for free. So we're seeing this with like Red Mage. Manification is moving away from giving mana, and now it just lets you execute 3 melee skills for free. So Viper is following suit with that. We're going to get this button that allows us to just enter Reawakening for free. It also gives us 1 red gem, and you guessed it, it's a 2-minute cooldown. And when we execute Reawakening, we do get a buff that lasts for 30 seconds that will essentially allow us to use Reawakening skills. It changes our GCDs over. If for some reason you don't execute all of those skills within that 30 seconds, it'll fall off and you'll lose access to those skills. You do have a basic ranged GCD, and this is your standard filler, your NP, your harp, whatever. And then you have a gap closer, which is targeted, unfortunately, but that's okay. Holds 2 charges, and that's a 45-second recharge. So all in all, we have a massive amount of buttons here to press. There's a lot of weaving in and out of different combos, in and out of the dual blade and dual wield stance. And then of course, Reawakening gives us this massive burst of speed where we're going to be absolutely eviscerating our target. It's going to be really, really fun. I'm super excited for Viper. This is the job that I'm going to be maining throughout Dawntrail. I have a static ready to let me play it, which is amazing. And I'm really excited. I'm super, super stoked to just get my hands on it and feel it. It looks like it's going to be super fun to play and super satisfying to hit these abilities, but we never really know until we get our hands on it. And again, this is just a disclaimer that this is all based on pre-media tour, pre-release. Who knows how much this is going to change, but based on what we have right now, this is what we know. So let me know what you think. Tell me if Viper is something that you're going to play, and let me know if you want me to do a video like this on the Pictomancer, because there's a lot of information out there about that. And like it if you like it, dislike it if you don't. Remember to subscribe and check out the Discord, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.